Yeah, I'm going straight through.
Thank you.
Yes.
No, baby. Oh, that reminds me, I need to
Welcome. Without further ado, for those that came early, I'm sure you've referred yourselves. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Devon Pillay, who's the chair of the Harow BHM group, to make the welcome, official welcome.
Hi everyone. Good to see so many new friends, and I won't say old, but familiar friends and faces around. Lovely turnout. Welcome to the launch of Harow BHM season 2014.
Good evening everyone, my name is Harow Pillay, and I'm sure you can see me at the desk registering everyone. I guess I came here today to learn more about my history, obviously as a young black man, living in this kind of system, in this society. So I just wanted the opportunity to learn more about myself. Well, I feel quite privileged to call myself African because I know that that's where I come from, that's where we all come from. That's one thing that we all have in common, and so yeah, I feel quite privileged.
Tell us and share with us why they're here today.
My name is Malachi Zonda, and I follow the teachings of Marcus Garvey and the ideology that he promotes in terms of Pan-Africanism in our society today, so I came on to learn about it and engage with our African community.
Welcome, a warm welcome to Harow. It's a real privilege to have you here. And I have no doubt that people will be refreshed by your presentation and have a lot to learn. So welcome, a warm welcome please.
Greetings everyone. I don't know about standing still and talking in the mic. Can you hear me? Yeah. Clearly? Yeah. So what I really want to focus on is the last one. We believe that you must tell your own stories without compromise to truly right historical wrongs. One of my favourite authors, Chinua Achebe, peace be upon him, he's passed. I saw a documentary with him years ago, and he said that if as African people we don't tell our own stories, we will disappear. He didn't say we might disappear, he said we will disappear. Because if you don't tell your own stories, who's going to tell your story for you? Anyone can make anything out of that. What do you make of that? Knowledge gives us the power to enslave or liberate. What do you think I mean by that? The Bible was absolutely used as a tool to enslave African people. Absolutely. And many other people on this planet as well. Yet, many of the great liberationists, including Marcus Garvey, use the Bible for liberation. So it cannot be the Bible. It's what you do with the scriptures, or the books, or the chapters, or whatever. Like any other animal or body of knowledge. So this is where we are. And Brother Kwaku, he likes to bully me, said I have to give you 2 learning outcomes. So here. So the first, to understand that the philosophy that underpinned the UNIA was based on Garvey's notion of education as something that happens beyond the 4 walls of the classroom. Most of my so-called education I got beyond the 4 walls of the classroom. I got expelled from school at 15, I got expelled from college at 16. My twin brother didn't, so don't blame the parents. After home now. Yeah. The other is the notion of a social gospel that is based on a black aesthetic that promotes self-reliance and self-determination. I know I have a belief in the divine, I believe in the ancestors, but I don't subscribe to any orthodox religion. If that's what you want to do, that's fine with me. But I personally don't. I just believe there is something great that creates. That's where the film should have been. So you see the film. So just a little bit about the UNIA. It was founded by Marcus Garvey in Jamaica in 1914, hence 100 years. And by using the Back to Africa message, he established chapters in New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles, and 700 branches in 38 states across the USA by the early 1920s. And you've got to think about how phenomenal that achievement was then. Because it was Jim Crow time. You all know about Jim Crow? Yeah? White-only spaces and places. His influence reached Canada, the Caribbean, and throughout Africa. And in fact, many of the islands I've been to in the Caribbean, like for instance Bermuda, they still have the old chapter to the UNIA. It's still there. And you know Bermuda's a martial law. Man United's crowd is bigger than the population of Bermuda. You know, 70,000 people or something like that. Yeah. So we need to think carefully about how far his reach extended. To join the UNIA, you had this. You had your constitution and your book of laws. You had your membership as well. So there you go. Because one of the things that you saw in the film, at the end, they said the FBI tried to find any way they could to destroy God. So they searched for many things. Young man, I can send you the slides if you wish. Yeah. Seriously. Anyone who wants the slides, I'll send them to Brother Quackle. Okay? I don't wipe up information. That means in 1919, Garvey purchased an auditorium in Harlem and named it Liberty Hall. There he held nightly meetings to get his message out, sometimes to an audience of 6,000. Can you imagine that? 6,000 people. And it's probably more than that. In 1918, he began a newspaper, The Negro World, which by 1920 had a circulation somewhere between 50,000 and 200,000. And we've got to think about this in the context of that time. Membership in the UNIA is difficult to assess. At one point, Garvey claimed to have 6 million members. That figure is most likely inflated. However, it is beyond dispute that millions were involved and directly affected by Garvey and his message. So these are just some of the images, roles in Garvey's black nationalism. He touted capitalism as the tool that would establish African Americans as an independent group. His message has been called the evangel of black success, for he believed economic success was the quickest and most effective way to independence. Interestingly enough, it was white America that served as a prime example of what blacks could accomplish. It was before we can properly help the people, we have to destroy the old education that teaches them that somebody's keeping them back and that God has forgotten them and they can't rise because of their colour. We can only build with faith in ourselves and with self-reliance, believing in our own possibilities that we can rise to the highest in God's creation. If you listen to some of Garvey's messages, there's a couple out there. Some people apparently have voiced those, but there are a couple. When you read the transcripts, you will see that they are very much underpinned by this notion of God. But it wasn't just a notion of let's pray. It was about how do we establish an educational system so that we can create financial institutions, etc., to empower ourselves as African people going forward. So one of the things he argued for was to establish universities, colleges, and secondary schools for the further education and culture of the boys and girls of the race. And what I mean by that is one of the things he said is the great white man has succeeded in subduing the world by forcing everyone to think his way, from his God to his fireside. He has given to the world from his Bible to his yellow newspaper sheet a literature that establishes his right and sovereignty to this front to the rest of the world. So if you want to educate people, you have to use propaganda. How do you use it? You need to use talk. This is what he suggests. We must give up the silly idea of folding our hands and waiting on God to do everything for us. Who's here from Jamaica? Any Jamaican? I'm a Jamaican, my parents are Jamaican. What do they say when they say this is unfair? What does it mean? What's it mean? That's what they say all the time. My father, if he saw you and he knew you were fit to work and you didn't want to work, like when me and him was in Jamaica and a man who looked healthier than me said to my dad, beg the $2, they'll roast him up my father. I won't use the excuses because I don't think I'm saying this. But the roasting my father gave him, and it was all about the fact that you are sitting on for your hand, you can go and dig yeah. That was it. So you have to be able to do something. Okay? This is what Garvey was talking about. He said if God had intended for that, then he would not have given us a mind. Einstein said the same thing. Some people have been blessed with a huge brain when a spinal cord would have been enough. Look it up yourself. That's what he said. Whatever you want in life, you must make up your mind to do it for yourself. Okay? In 1919, he established the Negro Factories Corporation and offered stock for African Americans to buy. He wanted to produce everything. So everything from black dolls to anything you think you would need to live in the world. The rudimentary things like soap or whatever, right up to aesthetics, black dolls, things that empowered you as an African person. His most famous economic venture, and that was the UNIA and the ACO, their most famous adventure was the Black Star Line, the most famous venture, because we're running out of scope. So you've all heard of the Black Star Line, yes? You have? Yes. Who hasn't? Show of hands. Don't be scared, little ones. But ignorance isn't bliss. It's a state that can be unlocked with knowledge. So the Black Star Line, this is one of the most famous contributions Garvey made. And basically, you used to have something called the White Star Line. Anybody know about that? They used to have the White Star Line, and the White Star Line, it was they would go, I think the Titanic was part of the White Star Line, if I'm not wrong. I'm sure it was. Anyway, Garvey wanted to create the Black Star Line. So he got people to invest in ships, and the idea was to take goods, services, and people to Africa. Malcolm X. You know Malcolm X is a Garvey, right? You know him. There are two very important influences in Malcolm X's life. Garveyism and the Nation of Islam. Elijah Muhammad, and he was the founder of Nation of Islam. He was also in the UNIA, and he was responsible for a lot of the propaganda, running the newspapers and stuff like that. It's contested because a lot of people say, no, the influence wasn't there, but the influence was there, because he was part of the UNIA. So apparently all of the skills that he learned about manipulating the press and propagating the message, he got that from the UNIA. Can't see that very well, but there's Malcolm X. What about these? Black Panther Party. You know they were influenced by Garvey as well? Except their message was not necessarily a universal one, but many of the principles that underpin the Black Party, the Black Panther Party, are in Garvey's edicts, those 54 things about what Negroes need to do. Here's another one for you. Who's that? Kwame Nkrumah. What has he got to do with Garvey at the UNIA? What is Ghana called? What is in the middle of your flag? The Black Star. And Nkrumah made many, not just one, many statements about Garvey and Garvey's influence on them, and why they were determined to liberate Ghana in 1957. The year of our Lord, that's me, that's when I was good. I know I was older than 85. So what about this? Here's one for you, and I've actually written about this. I think the article's got that next year. The Rastafari movement. Anybody know this handsome girl? It's not me. Well, one of the things about Rastafari always unequivocally suggests they had got nothing to do with politics or politics. Yeah? Rastafari. However, this guy here in 1961, Sam Brown, created a party called the Suffering People's Party. He got 100 votes. Now, it doesn't sound significant, but you have to understand the magnitude of what Sam Brown did. Because Sam Brown's policies were based on Garvey's principles. And if you read Garvey's principles, Brown's principles, and then the ones that underpin the Black Panther Party, you see that thread going through all of them. What about in the UK? Did anyone know we had a Black Power thing in the UK? No? One of my cousins, again, peace be upon her, her name was Pat. She took myself and my twin brother to a meeting. I don't know if Stokely Carmichael was there, I don't know, we were too young to know who was there. We just wanted to drink stuff and eat sweets or whatever. But she took us, she used to drag us to these meetings when we were like little children during the summer. So, although I wasn't conscious of what she was taking me to, I do remember the images on the wall in the venue she used to take myself and my two brothers. And I figure it was some of this, Black Power in Britain. So the front cover of the manifesto of the Universal Coloured People's Association, which was formed in 1967 after the visit to Britain of Stokely Carmichael, civil rights activist from the United States. Carmichael had first used the phrase Black Power, which became a focal issue for members of the civil rights movement. Garvey said we are going to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery because while others may free the body, number ourselves to free the mind. It wasn't Bob Marley, it was Marcus Garvey. Bob sang. Okay? Mind is your only ruler, sovereign. The man who is not able to develop and use his mind is bound to be the slave of the other man who uses his. Marcus Garvey, that's a quote from one of my books, Up the Blood Must Flow. It's my book, White Snakes in the Book. That quote comes from there. Page 120. And this is the UNIA, and I'll leave you with that. One God, one aim, one destiny, which is from Islam. Okay. There you have it. I think I did my 20 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yes. Question time?
Thank you, Dr. Leslie. That was very interesting, and I learned a lot, and I must confess, I wasn't aware of Marcus Garvey. I'm going to go and read about it. I was interested about how successful he was when they issued these shares, they sold shares to members, and also the Black Star Line. How successful were those enterprises? Because presumably there was an awful lot of action trying to break those businesses and make them fail.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, they weren't really, like the Black Star Line wasn't really that successful. As an ideological intervention, it was. But you had like the weight of FBI as you saw in the film. They were totally against any kind of empowerment. So, some of it was mismanagement because I did have the pleasure of speaking to some elders who said to me that some of it was mismanaged, but you get that in any organization. And if you can imagine you're trying to organize a couple of million people and find out who's contributed to what and your bookkeeping, etc. But they were directly undermined by the FBI.
It was a very good presentation, and I was not aware of what Marcus Garvey had done. What I find is that he was far ahead of his time. Thank you.
I think that in some ways I agree with you, but I think what Marcus Garvey did probably better than anyone else up to this point is he consolidated a lot of what was there. So, for instance, he really wanted to meet Booker T. Washington, but when he finally got to America, Booker T. Washington had died. I think it was about a month before or something like that. Booker T. Washington wrote a book on Negro empowerment up from slavery. So a lot of what Garvey did, he consolidated a lot of stuff. In fact,
I wanted to ask you about your own thoughts on the most powerful thing I think within the scope of Garveyism, which is mobilizing people back to Africa. And I just wanted to find out whether you felt that was practicable. How would you put something like that into practice? Also, whether you think there'd be some sort of cultural, backlash.
well, the second part is easy because absolutely. One of the things about Garvey, and again, I got chastised by some people. I think he said said that Garvey's, in fact, the key was in the video when Professor Rupert Lewis, who's another great guy I know personally, said that Garvey kind of was in between the people who wanted to take people to Africa and the people who saw Africans as savages. Did you hear that thing? Because a lot of people said Garvey's idea was that we go there to rule a lot of the Africans because they can't rule themselves. A lot of people, it's unpopular, but he said it. And it's evident in a lot of his writings. However, to me, he's still a context of his time. So what would he have known about Africa? Would have been what he believed, because he never went there to see for himself. Like Columbus never went to set foot on American soil. He never set foot on African soil. But the first part of your question, you know, one of the things that Garvey said is not everybody will be of use to Africa. So not everybody who wants to go would be allowed to go. Because what are you going for? And the most pragmatic and practical example I can give you is when His Majesty Emperor Selassie gave land outside of Shashamane land to Jamaicans or people from the diaspora, many Rastas from here went. This was in the 60s. In fact, I think the first person to take it up was a brother who allegedly walked most of the way from here to Ethiopia. So he walked and took boats and did all kinds of stuff. But a lot of the brothers and sisters who I know personally in the 70s went to Africa, no skills, nothing to offer. Some of them ended up emaciated and came back. So to me, if you're going to go to Africa, you need to know what you're going there for. Because Africa has got enough leaders with a European mentality messing up the continent. And I think it doesn't need one bag more of us to go over there and perpetuate that.
Yes, as a Catholic, I want to say this. Where Africa is concerned, what Marcus Garvey said is not about Africans in the diaspora going to Africa to rule Africans on the continent. What he said is that we don't want a mass migration of Africans in the diaspora going to the motherland. But what is needed is that Africans in the diaspora with the necessary skills, engineering, medicine, etc., who can contribute to the building of a strong United States of Africa, that they should go to work with our brothers and sisters on the continent, not as rulers, but as equals. Finally, with respect to the trumped-up charges that Edgar Hoover brought on, and at the time the FBI wasn't organized yet. So the organization that Hoover had was a forerunner of what was later to become the FBI. The so-called evidence was an empty envelope, reading the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey. You want to know about Marcus Garvey, read the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey, and also the course of African philosophy, also by Marcus Garvey, published by the Majority Press, owned by my friend Tony Martin. It was an empty envelope. And the so-called court, the name of the judge was Mark, who should not have been the judge because he was a member of the NAACP, which was a bitter enemy of Marcus Garvey's organization, UNI and ACL. And he was a Zionist, right? So he should not have been the presiding judge. But it was an empty envelope. And what they said was that Marcus Garvey was soliciting people to buy shares when there was no steamship company in line. So it was a total lie, a total sham. Nothing was an empty envelope. This is what happen where Marcus Garvey is concerned. And when I'm speaking as a Garvey, I do, because the first wife, Ashwood Garvey, is my mother's cousin. And Marcus Garvey's first son, Marcus Garvey Jr., who later became the 7th President General of the organization, was my physics teacher at Kingston Technical High School in Jamaica in the 60s. And we have worked as Garveyites in a political party in Jamaica called the African Nationalist Union that we founded in the 60s. I'm just stating that to show whoever is here, where I'm coming from. Other things have been said, but I'll let that lie for now. And my name is Mandingo.
For me, one of the biggest things that I learned about Marcus was that he inspired me as a young man when I was growing up. But I heard him through not history books, but through Bob Marley, as you did, as many of us probably did as well. But I think it was about being proud of who you are. It's about learning where you're from. And it's about using knowledge in a certain way, really. And I think one of the things that we tend to do is to allow others to teach our children and to teach ourselves. And I think education starts from home. Education starts from within.
Absolutely.
And I think, for me, if you know your past, you're more likely to have a secure future. I think too many of us don't know our past. It's been hidden, and too many of us run away from it as well. And it's not about individuals, because some of the individuals that I've seen that have opened doors for Africans have been white people. It's about systems. The systems that have been created are the ones that hold us back. And some of the people that uphold those systems are Africans, because they don't know any better. And I think it's about knowing when to challenge, but you should challenge from a point of strength. So the lessons has to start from within, from us. If we can't look at ourselves in the mirror, how can we expect anybody else to look at us and respect us? But that's what I learned about Marcus Garvey. That's what he taught me. And I like to think it's held me in good stead as I've got older and older, and now an old public. So I want to leave you with those thoughts, really. And of course, very, very grateful to Dr. Les for coming here this evening and giving us an inspiring talk. So can we again please stand? Before you go, please don't forget the evaluation forms. They're very important because the steering group and the forum really learns from lessons like this. So anything that you have to say, please. Wait, great.
Okay. I think once the service is put quickly, please do fill in the evaluation forms. If we don't have your email, make sure we have your email, because we are not funded to the extent in which we can phone people or put things in the post. Yeah, I know Dr. Les, and as I said, I do believe in what there's a need. I thank Mandingo over there. Just want to make a point, Mandingo made it, but probably people took it as an aside. The FBI was not in existence during the 1920s when Marcus Garvey was being counted. I'm sure you all are aware of the in West Africa. Pan-Africanism is connected wherever you are. So Ms.
Yeah, just very quickly, as Brother Papua said, we're all aware of the Ebola virus. I mean, it's causing unnecessary loss of life. So what we want to do is to organize a fundraiser for Médecins Sans Frontières, who do a lot of work there. I think they're working in those countries hit by the virus. And what we specifically want to do is to buy the protective outfit for the health workers who are in the front line. quite a number of them have died, sadly, because they don't have the protective gear. So there's a fundraiser taking place on the 6th of December at Cumberland Hotel in Harow. You're all welcome. The link is there at Eventbrite, and I think it's on the board. So if you're interested, you can buy your tickets, and together we can help our brothers and sisters in West Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. There was something I was going to say. Yes, I remember now. Yeah. I will just come to it. It's something I just want to mention quickly to people, really. It's been a struggle over the years to get council funding so we can actually do a Black History season. There's a lot of time and effort that people put in. The money's never enough, you know, but I think with all the cuts that are coming, we're hoping that we will continue, but I'm not holding my breath. Even when they had money, they had to fight to get funding. So, you know, for us to continue, we do need you to consider sort of donating and helping us when you can, really. So, don't be surprised if we come to you after this season over and say, look, please help us, you know. I mean, some of us have walked the streets and rattled tins to try and get money. And we get a lot of sponsorship from organisations like Harow BHM as well. So just to bear that in mind, that we might not be able to continue as we have been because of the funding cuts that are impending. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Sister Nana just to finish up.
It's my duty to thank you all. So first I want to thank you for coming tonight because you have helped to make this an evening worth remembering. I really hope you've enjoyed the evening, and especially Dr. Les's contribution. And thanks to you as well who participated in the discussion, we've had a good, I think, both entertaining and educating time. I really want to thank Brother Nadino for the contribution he made, because it's like living history. You get connections to people who we know of as markers there, but then somebody who's connected. It brings it alive, because history is a living thing, and it's good that we all learn. But I also want to thank Dr. Les for saying that knowledge can liberate or enslave. And it's something that I'm taking from today, because sometimes you know something, but it takes somebody to put it in context. So the knowledge that people have gotten from the Bible, it can either make you a slave or it can make you free. It's those kind of things. So before we just condemn, oh, we don't believe in this and we don't believe in that, use knowledge to liberate. That's the use of knowledge. So I hope you all take that on board. I'd really like to thank Devin, because not only does he chair Black History Month and the forum and the steering group so ably, his organization, Harow BHM, does all the things that you need to do to help something like this happen. Without Harow BHM, this wouldn't be happening. Because often, you know how public bodies are. They will give you funding and the money won't come for months, sometimes even after the season is over. But Harow BHM will support, make sure things are paid for, so that we can be here and we can meet each other and we can learn. Because Black History Month is about learning. And Black History Month is African history. And for those who sometimes worry about why do we have African history, African history is part of world history. And it's just a perspective that needs to be told so that we can learn together. It's about the whole human family learning together. Our theme, as you know, this season in Harow is Marcus Garvey UNIA ACL. For those who don't know, ACL stands for African Communities League. We just showed you where Marcus was coming from. He knew that everybody in the diaspora was African. So for those who think they are not, they better grow up. But like I said, knowledge is something that we need to find all the time. One of the things that I want to share with you are the words of Marcus Garvey. And we've had some of them on the screen tonight. He said, God and nature first made us what we are. And then out of our own created genius, we make ourselves what we want to be. Follow always that great law. Let the sky and God be our limits, and eternity our measurement. So if those words inspire us, we'll do well. Dr. Les also mentioned Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. He was inspired by Garvey. And in his own words, this is what Nkrumah said. Long before many of us were conscious of our own degradation, Marcus Garvey fought for African national and racial equality. I think of all the literature I studied, the book that did most to fire my enthusiasm was The Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. And Brother Madigo mentioned it tonight. So if you get a chance, Google that book, find it, read it, because it inspired Nkrumah, and Nkrumah is known as the person who talked about Pan-Africanism. He was inspired by Garvey. But last but not least, I think it's important to mention a book that was written by Kwaku and Sewa, actually was edited. And it takes in quotes from the African family. And one of the things in it is a quote by Marcus Garvey, and the book is called African Voices. If you want a copy, either talk to them or Google it and find it. Now, in African Voices, and Dr. Les gave reference to that, Dr. Marcus Garvey was asked, so do you want to send all Africans in the diaspora, as opposed to Africa? And he said, no, there are some who are no good here and will be no good there. So in that, we need to know that in all communities there's good and bad. And what we need to do is to build from the good, and together we can change community. So it's about us working together, recognizing that history is a wonderful subject that we can learn from. So once again, thank you, Dr. Ned, for all that you've done.
I was very glad to come here. Well, first of all, I like the encouragement to just get on with whatever it is that you're doing. It's really easy to fall into the blame game, and I've been associated with a lot of black empowerment organizations and stuff like that, and I just realized it doesn't actually get you anywhere. And then most of the Black History Month activities that I go to just seem stuck in the past with just lamenting what's happened to us. And it's just great to be here tonight to celebrate the potential of what is black. And it just makes you think, well, the past is the past. You see the past, but look to create a more positive future. And for me, that throws off more shackles than anything else. It makes me fired up to go for a brighter tomorrow from tomorrow, sort of thing, if that makes sense.
We learned a lot about Marcus Garvey. I like the interaction afterwards. We learned a lot of the question and answers. And my kids, I'm sure, picked up a lot. So it was a great evening and an excellent turnout.
I think Garvey's messages from all these years ago about education and about knowing who you are is still very important today.
Great evening.
Wonderful first event. Good turnout. Thank you very much for the organisers.
Sign out. Do you guys want to say anything? Do you want to say something?
Well, I guess I learned a lot from today's lesson, interaction, and I particularly liked what Devon was saying about the sort of economic system and how that kind of controls us as a body of humans.
It was very insightful. Definitely learned, didn't realise the widespread influence of Marcus Garvey. And definitely will be reading up more on him, the ACL, UNIA, did that influence with Malcolm X, Nation of Islam, Panther, what he built, what he achieved, and how people tried to shut him down. It was just thoroughly enjoyed myself, and just kind of reconfirmed some things that I had known before through family teachings. And definitely you need to teach yourself and don't let others teach you their version of history.
I thought it was quite educating. I mean, there's a lot of things that I learned about Marcus Garvey that I didn't personally know myself. Anything I did know was probably just from GCSE history, which was not a lot. So it was good to obviously hear it from people who have studied him, and even a young gentleman who knew someone who knew him. So yeah, it was quite interesting.
there anything that you're going to take away from today and maybe go and research or maybe do differently because of anything you heard tonight?
I mean, quite a few points did touch me. One of them being was Dr. Levi said that you need to sort of read and learn in secret and just get on with it. I mean, a lot of people, after maybe learning some of this stuff, they get a little bit politically minded and want to go out there and start smashing this and smashing that and, you know, causing up a stir. But I think like that point is important, because when you give yourself time to grow and you lay the foundations of it, when you're ready, you can then put yourself in a position whereby you can actually go and do something that will make a difference. So rather than me just today going out to school to work or whatever and being like, oh yeah, you white people this, you white people that, but you know, just give myself time to grow and, you know, bide it really until I'm ready to do my thing.
100 years of the foundation of the UNIA ACL, extremely significant. We don't think there's been enough done on it. We thank the people of Harow that they've gone behind the organising committee and they've allowed this event to take place. So obviously I'm very partial. I'm glad it was Dr. Les Henry who delivered this discourse, and I know that the people were intellectually nourished and spiritually fortified by the delivery that he gave. So we continue as we started. Love Marcus Garvey forever. Long live Marcus Garvey. Long live the UNIA ACL, and respect to the people of Harow. Thank you.
But I was glad to be able to be here to clarify certain things and to correct certain things. And ideally, what should really happen in this African History Month is that I should be given the opportunity to do a lecture about Marcus Garvey and his organization, because I am a Garveyite. And being a Garveyite is just another way of saying I am a Pan-Africanist.